Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Phil Arno. Well, we've had an election as well as a primary. New York's 27th congressional district has gone to the polls, and as of now, it seems to be clear. Chris Jacobs has declared victory in both the election and the primary. Can the absentee ballots make a difference? They won't even be counted for more than a week. Vic Martucci, a political consultant from Masiello, Martucci, Calabrese & Associates, is here to weigh in on the election, presidential politics, civil unrest, the coronavirus, and the kitchen sink if we have time. Chris Jacobs has declared victory. Now, there are a lot of absentee votes still out there. Is it too soon, or do you think he's got a point?
No, Chris Jacobs is the winner, although they can't officially declare him the winner because there are more absentee ballots outstanding than the number of votes that Chris leads by on the machine count. But Chris has about a 30,000 vote lead on the machine. There's about 7,400 more Democrat absentee ballots yet to be counted than Republican absentee ballots. And so even if Nate McMurray pulls all 7,400 of those additional Democrat ballots, he's still going to lose by about 23,000 votes. So the special is over, and Chris Jacobs is the clear winner.
And now, flash forward to November, and McMurray is on the ballot in November. How does this affect how that election campaign is going to play out?
Well, I think it'll affect it in a couple of ways. One is if there was any thought of outside money coming in to support Nate McMurray, that thought is gone because he lost so convincingly. And, you know, the Democrats in Washington are going to invest their money in races where they have a chance to win, and he doesn't have a chance to win. You know, sometimes we try to make these things more complicated than they are, right? Because we had a special and a primary on the same day, and a lot of people are voting by absentee ballot, and are people going to get confused? In the end, this congressional district, New York 27, is one of the most pro-Trump congressional districts in the country. And it was clear. You had to be living under a rock not to know who the president was supporting. And so in the end, that carried the day both in the special and the primary, and that's why Chris Jacobs won handily.
Now, do you think this is then an overall comment on how people are viewing Trump? Will this have any kind of foretelling of what's going to come in November?
I don't think so, because, as I said, this is a pro-Trump district. So we would be reading the tea leaves if Jacobs either did not win or won by a much closer margin, given the congressional district's past history and the presidential election in 2016. So that didn't happen. So what it says is, in this particular district, the president is as strong as he was 4 years ago. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate nationally.
Well, you know, I was going to stay local for a while in this discussion, but since we started talking about Trump, I have a question about the last several years. The Democrats have been going after one thing and another and another and another, and they've been screaming at the top of their lungs on every issue that they can to try and make Trump look bad. And I can come up with maybe 4 different possibilities as a result of what they're doing. Now, one might be that it's got a cumulative effect, and everybody says, wow, there's so much controversy, it's just not worth having a president that just has so much trouble and baggage. The second is there might be one issue that maybe sticks out, because there's a lot of issues that have kind of been forgotten and fallen by the wayside, but there might be one that kind of sticks out, and they may pursue that between now and November. And then it could be that basically it's like the boy that cried wolf, and everybody is going to ignore, because there's so much noise and they brought out so many different things that they're just, people are tired about hearing about all the complaints and all the negative and all this guy's, if everything attributed to him was true, he'd have been in jail for 2,000 years. I mean,
Right.
you know, it's just, there's no question he'd be the worst person on the face of the earth.
Right.
And then the final possibility is that the people who like him are going to continue to like him, and the people who don't like him are going to continue to not like him, and none of this makes any difference. So in this particular case, the 27th district went for him.
Right. So what that tells me is that at least in New York 27, the base is still solidly with the president.
Right. Nobody changed any minds.
Right. And in 2016, it was a base election. The overall turnout was low. The base turned out on the Republican side in larger numbers than the base turned out on the Democrat side. And that was largely due to two voting blocks on the Democrat side. Hillary Clinton was not able to excite the black vote enough to get them out in as large numbers as they did in the two elections when they elected Barack Obama, and that shouldn't be a surprise. But secondly, she couldn't excite the young voters either. And the young voters did not turn out in the numbers in 2016 that they did in the two Barack Obama elections. That was Barack Obama's roadmap to victory, was that he had as a percentage of the total electorate much historically high percentages of young voters and black voters. And that's going to be Joe Biden's challenge.
Well, you know, Joe Biden is not as unlikable as Hillary was. And,
right.
You know, he doesn't have that negative. But on the other end, he has been very suspect when it comes to the gaffes that he's been making. You know, he seems confused. He seems bewildered and kind of doesn't know where he is sometimes and forgets what he's talking about. So there's a concern there about his mental state and well-being, and there's a lot of people talking about, well, how can this guy make it through a presidency? So are we really going to be voting for whoever he picks as a vice president to take over within a year or two? And is that going to be the equivalent of the negative that Hillary had?
Well, I think a couple things. One is because of the environment that we're in, you're not going to have the exposure of the candidates that you would typically have in a presidential election. And I actually think this low-profile approach is working for Joe Biden.
Can he maintain that, though?
Well, that's the question, and you alluded to something earlier. I'm beginning to sense that there's Trump fatigue out there, and a lot of that is the president's own fault. Because, and you're in the media business, you understand this, he is constantly in the media, whether it's social media platform, press events, whatever it is, and the president is a bull in a china shop. And we're in an environment today where we have racial unrest and economic unrest because of the pandemic. And so the question I have in my mind is, are people are they tired? Are they worn out? And if Trump fatigue sets in, that could be a problem for the president in November.
Well, the question, I guess, will be how people view all the trouble that is hitting the country now, and whether or not they connect it with Trump. I mean, obviously, the effort, and the media has played a big part in this, because obviously the media does not like Trump. And that, coupled with the fact that the media likes stories that are controversial and, kind of, poke the bee's nest,
right.
They want to keep this going, this scenario where everybody is like in a fever pitch. So,
well, the recent polling has some danger signs for the president. Number one, he has over a 60% negative rating on how he's handled the coronavirus crisis. and he has over a 60% negative rating in how he's handled the racial unrest and the Black Lives Matters and the police brutality issues. And so when you look at the Real Clear Politics average, which is a consolidation of all the polls that are out there, there are studies out there that suggest that for the Democrat candidate to win, they need to be 6 to 7 percentage points ahead in the national polling, because we don't elect presidents nationally. We elect them through the Electoral College at the state level. But when they get above a 6 to 7 point lead, that translates into Electoral College victory for the Democrat candidate. Biden's margin of his lead right now in the Real Clear Politics average is 9.8%. So he's over that threshold. And in the battleground states, he holds a little bit better than a 6% lead. So there are danger signs out there for the president. So issues that are top of mind, the pandemic and racial unrest, the president is getting negative grades, and the national polls suggest that that Biden is off to a strong start. Now, it's June 24th, and it's a long way to Election Day. Nobody predicted the coronavirus. Who knows what is going to be top of mind in October as we get closer to Election Day.
Okay. Well, we're out of time for this segment, so when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this and what's going to happen between now and November. We're going to talk a little bit about the unrest and how coronavirus is affecting things nationally and will be affecting things politically. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.